like I said, we're all there on the spectrum. So it's normal, you know, for us to have, you know, sometimes these narcissistic traits, you know, where we are human beings, sometimes we are self-centered, and, you know, as long as it's, you know, within balance and within the healthy range, it's okay. So it's okay to feel special and get attention when it's appropriate from time to time. For example, if it's your birthday or maybe you're graduating, it's okay to want to get special attention, but it's also good to know when it's appropriate to be humble, you know. So that's the problem when you're on the high end of the spectrum. Sometimes people don't know, you know, when to stop. Maybe it's not even your function, it's not even your wedding, and you want to take the center stage. And then on the opposite extreme, Rumbi, confirm you can still hear me?
Yes, we can, yes.
Okay, great. So on the opposite extreme lies the grandiose, arrogant, and totally self-seeking individuals. So this is what we, you know, normally term a personality disorder or a narcissistic disorder, because these people are very, very selfish, and that's on the high end. So here we have a diagram, you know, which is showing the narcissistic spectrum. So we have, you know, a healthy narcissism where, you know, like I said, from time to time, it's okay, you know, to be self-centered, you know, sometimes it's normal. So as long as it's, you know, on that end, people where we do tend to have narcissistic traits, but these are flexible traits and they're adaptive. And then there are some people who are, you know, codependent. We say probably they have stable narcissism. And then it, you know, somewhere towards the end of the spectrum, it becomes destructive and it becomes on the high end pathological narcissism, which is what we would call a clinical disorder. So I believe, you know, the discussion today probably centers around people who are on the high end of the spectrum. People would call, you know, those with a narcissistic personality disorder, because I believe those who are in the middle of the spectrum and those on the low end normally wouldn't give us any problem. So it's usually people who are very, you know, on the high end of the spectrum that causes problem. So according to the Mayo Clinic, they define narcissistic personality disorder as a mental condition in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration. And obviously, you know, when you're selfish and you're always self-centered, this brings problems in relationships. So they often have troubled relationships and they have a lack of empathy for others. And people with NPD tend to have a distorted self-image. They are intensely preoccupied with themselves, which adds to that lack of empathy. So they're extremely self-centered and selfish. And also, just to look at some of the characteristics of people with this disorder, you may not be aware, or you may have come across someone who may actually have this disorder, but you may not be aware. So these are some of the characteristics. So people with NPD expect to get special treatment, and they may lash out when they feel like they're not getting special treatment. I don't know about you, you know, sometimes in public settings, you know, there are some people who just feel they can't stand in a queue, you know, they always have to go to the end of the line, or they have to go to the front of the queue, whether it's at a passport office or whether it's at an airport. And, you know, usually you find these people saying, oh, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? And they feel that they always have to go to the front of the queue. And often these people, they lack empathy and they take advantage of people with no regrets. You know, they have no remorse. They also have an exaggerated sense, you know, they exaggerate their own smarts, their success, power, and looks. They believe that they're it. And they're also extremely jealous, you know, and ultra sensitive. Because imagine if you think you are always, you know, supposed to be number one and you're supposed to be, you know, the center of attraction. If somebody comes who's probably better looking or doing better than you, obviously they become extremely jealous. And they also do not react well to criticism or critique because they are supposed to be perfect. And narcissists also lack accountability. So they will take credit for whatever goes right, whether it's in a relationship or in a work setting, and they tend to dish out the blame for whatever goes wrong. So usually the spouses of the narcissist, they're always blamed for everything that goes wrong in the relationship. And these people are also pathological liars. So a narcissist will lie about everything, even the things that, we think that they're most minor and insignificant. For example, what you had for dinner. If you ask them, oh, what did you have for dinner? They'll probably lie and say, oh, I had lobsters and caviar, instead of just saying, maybe I had just sadza and beef, or I just had toast and beans. They will actually even lie about the most insignificant things. And moving on, the prevalence, how prevalent is this personality disorder? So research actually shows that NPD affects less than 1% of the general population. I believe this percentage could be more. I probably believe it's because most of us maybe do not give a diagnosis, or we're not aware that some of the people that we interact with actually have a personality disorder. And statistics also show that 50 to 75% of those who have it are actually men. So there are actually more men who are narcissistic than women. And the estimated prevalence in clinical settings is approximately 2 to 16%. That's probably because when people come in clinical settings, the professionals are probably able to give a diagnosis. Okay, and so we might want to understand, when you're dealing with a narcissist, what is really going on? What is at the core of narcissism? So, oftentimes it does not seem the case, that narcissists actually suffer from low self-esteem and have a poor self-image, because they're always acting superior and they're acting grandiose most of the time. So sometimes we're not aware that they actually have low self-esteem, because most of them are bullies. So actually, this is what drives their personality and behavior. And they're usually in denial themselves. They usually don't even realize that their self-esteem is low, and they don't readily admit it. So because of that, they can often act as if they're confident. They overcompensate, and it's because they're compensating for their low self-esteem. And also, at the core of the narcissist is self-loathing. Most of them actually hate themselves. Probably they feel inferior, or they have something about themselves that they don't like. But because they are in denial, the narcissist will project these feelings of self-loathing onto others. And it's usually the people that are close to them, like their spouses, their children, or their siblings. And also at the root of a narcissistic personality disorder is shame. Most of them, they actually have shame at their core. But again, the narcissistic person is so cut off from his or her emotions, they are in denial. So again, this shame is projected onto their nearest and dearest. Again, unfortunately, people that are close to them. So now we would want to maybe understand how, now that we understand, the characteristics of narcissists, how do you divorce or separate from a narcissist? And yeah, it's actually quite a difficult process. So asking a narcissistic spouse for a divorce is the equivalent of declaring a full-scale war on them. So you just need to be aware that, when you confront a narcissist and you tell them that you want a divorce or you want to separate, you've actually declared war on them. So it means you need to be prepared mentally, physically, and economically for the hell to come, because they will fight back. And so you must be aware that when you are divorcing a narcissist or you want to separate from them, be battle ready. You know that you're getting into a battle. So you need to know your enemy. If you're going into any battle, you need to know your enemy. You need to know what their weaknesses are, so that you can ride on those weaknesses and take advantage of them. So you, of course, your narcissist partner. A narcissist injury is like an animal which is wounded, or a buffalo that is wounded. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be angry. By wanting a divorce, you've caused them a narcissistic injury, and now you must pay for it. So you must always be aware. Never forget that they will want revenge for your action. Even if they're pretending to be nice, just have it at the back of your mind that they are going to want revenge, for wanting to leave you, for you wanting to leave them. Like, how dare you leave me? Because you've been their narcissistic supply. So now, how dare you even think of leaving? So as far as they're concerned, they are the victim and not you. you are actually the one who's causing them problems. So again, it's important to be aware that they have no empathy for anybody, not even their children. So you might think, oh, he'll never let his children suffer. He loves his children. But once you declare that you're leaving them, like, yeah, you've declared war, so they will not hesitate to use anybody, even their children. So because they have no conscience for the distress that they cause. So never underestimate what they can do. So always remember that narcissists will take the low road. They'll not take the high road. So anticipate that they will tell lies. They will hit below the belt. They'll not fight clean. And the narcissists, sometimes they will try to do delaying tactics. They'll try to delay the divorce. They will refuse to sign the papers. So you must be aware, and in return, you should alert the court to their delaying tactics once you file for divorce. And narcissists will play to win, gloriously. They always have to win. They always have to win in the end. So expect their dirty deeds and their need to fight to the death. So they'll do anything, even things that are corrupt. And so narcissists set out to defeat and destroy their foe. So they are black and white thinkers. You're either with them or against them. And now that you said you want to leave them, now you're not their friend, you're their foe. So they will, go after you. And narcissists would rather spend huge sums of amounts in court than to settle privately out of court. They don't care. In the end, they want to make sure that you don't gain in any way. So negotiating with them is almost impossible. So how do you prepare, to leave a narcissistic spouse? So the important thing before you even, confront them or even alert them that you want to leave them, you need to play your cards close to your chest. So you need to prepare a good support system. Make sure that you've got friends around you who rally around you, because you will need them. You will need a shoulder to cry on. Make sure that your family members are aware and that you've created that support system. You also need a good legal team. Someone like Rumbi, who understands how to deal with these high conflict narcissistic people during the legal process, because then it's going to be very different from, dealing with a normal person who's not high on that spectrum. So you also need a therapist, people like me, because you need a therapist also who understands narcissistic victim abuse, because you'll be surprised, that you need someone to work with you, because these people will gaslight you. You end up second guessing yourself. So you definitely need a therapist as part of your support system. Also, you need your family doctor to be close by, for monitoring your physical health throughout the process, because these people, they can cause you quite a lot of stress. You might end up with high blood pressure and all those stress-related diseases. So it's important to have your family doctor close by, monitoring your physical health throughout the process. And also, if you have children, it's important to alert even the teachers or the school that this is what is going on, so that your children can get support. And the teachers, if they're aware, they can flag, and let you know if there are any changes in the children's behavior. And they'll actually offer support, because they'll be aware of what's going on. They won't think maybe your children are acting out or being, just difficult. They'll actually be more empathetic. And also, it's important to set aside some money when preparing to divorce a narcissist, because they'll use anything, like I said, they'll not fight clean. They may even sabotage you. If they're the breadwinner, they might withhold finances. So you might even want to start preparing maybe way in advance. I know of a client who prepared for about 2 years. She was putting aside money, but she'd already made the decision that she wanted out of the marriage, but she just made sure that, she was putting aside money before she even alerted the partner that she wanted a divorce. So you need money, because you need to hire a good attorney. You need to pay legal fees. You need to support your family, yourself and your children during this divorce process, because they might sabotage you and even withhold finances from you. And some things that you also need to do, make sure that you document everything as you go through this process, because these people are good at gaslighting you and rewriting history. They will deny, they'll lie in your face. So it's important to keep copies of any communication your partner tries to have with you. So all the emails, the texts, the voicemail, take screenshots of any social media messages, because they'll lie to your face and they'll gaslight you. And they're like, I never said that. I never promised that, so it's important to make sure that you document everything so you have a paper trail. And also one of the things that you might want to do if you're dealing with your narcissistic partner is go no contact. Make sure you avoid contact as much as possible. And if it's impossible, if you must have contact, it's important to do this through your legal team or a third party, have someone as a mediator, because, once you declare, that you're leaving them, it's war, it's full-blown war. So also you should make a plan of what you need from the divorce, know what you are willing to give up and what you're not willing to give up, because if you don't do this, sometimes they'll frustrate you so much that you just say, you know what, just take everything, I just want peace, at any price. So it's important beforehand that you prepare yourself what you're willing to give up and what you're not willing to give up, no matter how they react. So it's also important to stay focused on why you're getting a divorce. I've worked with a lot of clients, sometimes because of the harassment and all the drama, they might end up saying, you know what, this is too difficult. Maybe I should just stay. But you need to remind yourself, why you're asking for a divorce in the first place. It's important even to write it down, remind yourself of the narcissistic dysfunctional behavior pattern that led you to this place. Remember the gaslighting, the lack of empathy, the controlling, all the things, that led you to make that decision. Because sometimes it's very easy when you're overwhelmed to say, you know what, maybe it's better to just stay for the sake of peace. And it's also important to have a safety plan, because some of them, once you tell them you want to leave, they can blow up into a narcissistic rage. Some of them can become violent. So it's important to have a safety plan, because you never know how they're going to react, because, they don't like being rejected. So make sure that you have a place you've planned and in advance where you and your children can go if you feel that you're unsafe. And if you don't have a safe place, you can contact domestic violence support services so that you make sure that you are actually safe. And it's important as well, as you go through this process, it's very easy, to neglect yourself, because it's really draining dealing with a narcissistic spouse, especially when you're fighting for divorce or you're going on separation. So just make sure that you take care of yourself, eat healthily, exercise is actually good for your mental health, so you can think clearly, and also spend time with your family and friends so that you get the support that you need. And finally, I just want to end by saying, pace yourself. When you are separating from a narcissist or, divorcing a narcissist, pace yourself. This is likely going to be a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. So pace yourself. You will find yourself in and out of court. They will drag you into court unnecessarily. So just pace yourself for a marathon. So divorcing a narcissist is not an easy task, but, it can be done if you have access to the right tools and resources, if you put together a comprehensive support system. And above all else, stay calm, remain calm, because these people love drama. So don't allow yourself to be drawn in their drama triangle. So stay calm, especially in the courts, because if you remain calm, eventually the judge will know who the problem is. We have a proverbs here in Zimbabwe, which says, if he who beats the drum for the madman to dance is equally mad. So when the madman is dancing, don't beat the drum for them, because in the end, people will not know which one is a mad person and who's normal. So it's important to stay calm. So eventually people will say, okay, he's the one this is the madman. So I think this is all I have, and I'll take questions. And so again, I'm just going to put my details and the end, but I think I'll stop here. Rumbi, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a lot of information, and so much that I'm sure everyone has gleaned from there, right from the characteristics of people with narcissistic personality disorder. And I think some of us are I think all of us probably identify ourselves somewhere along that spectrum. Like you said, all of us have got some traits, So that was really a lot of information. And I think some of the characteristics that I picked up are lacking empathy, taking advantage of people, not having regrets, exaggerating, own smarts and success, power and looks, not reacting well to criticism, lacking accountability, pathological lying. Those are all really key things that you may recognize in your spouse or ex-spouse, or recognize in yourself, or recognize in some of the issues that were there. What is the core of narcissism? That was so good. Just the clarity that it's not about you, it's about them and their own insecurities and what drives narcissism, and also what to expect when separating from a narcissist. Narcissist takes the low road, you said, so anticipate that they will tell lies. And I know with some of my clients, when they are so exasperated because they're saying, why are they lying? It's clearly a lie. But like you said, when you tell lies, you entangle yourself and the truth will always come out in the end, because some people entangle themselves. They play to win gloriously. So expect their dirty deeds and their needs to fight to the death. Spending a lot of money, not mediating, and you've given some amazing tools on your own toolkit of professionals to have and people to support on how to prepare, to have a good support system, a good legal team, a therapist, GP, money, school fees and everything. So talking to the school. So that's been amazing. I think, thank you so much. I'm not going to keep summarizing everything, but I took a lot of screenshots. I hope you took screenshots as well, everyone who was listening. And I'm going to now look up to see if we've got any questions, or if anyone wants to raise their hand, if they've got something they want to say or something they want to add before we talk about the legal process. Then we've got some time for that. It's been really good. We've got some comments there that very insightful. Thank you so much. Very insightful and helpful. We've got a question for you from Audrey, and she asks, this personality disorder, is it deliberate or they can't be helped, and can they be treated?
I wouldn't say it's deliberate as such. Usually you'll find that most of them in their childhood, maybe they've gone through some trauma of some sort, what we call maybe those adverse childhood experiences, and maybe they never got any therapy, for that. So it's not even about you. They've got maybe shame, things that happen to them that cause shame, that cause them low self-esteem, but maybe they never got help for it. So usually it's subconscious, We say that personality disorders are the hardest to treat because, other mental disorders, you can give medication. If someone is, has got bipolar, you can give them medication. But with a personality disorder, sometimes if they're in denial, that makes it very hard to treat, because most of them are actually in denial, because that is their coping mechanism. They displace and they project, and for them, they actually think they don't have a problem. So that's the issue. That's why it's so difficult for them to get help.
Wow. And you've said they displace and they project. Could you perhaps explain that more to us, what that means? What does that mean?
So I feel inferior, but because I can't bring myself to, to accept that I'm inferior, I'll, probably project on you that, the way I'll treat you, maybe I'll talk down to you, I'll not give you respect, because most of them, that's how they treat their spouses. They don't show them respect, they are condescending because they actually feel that they're superior, so it's a coping mechanism. Because I'm in denial, I can't bring myself to believe that I'm actually inferior to Rumbi, so I'm gonna treat you like you're inferior. I will not even compliment you, even though you're looking good. I'm like, oh, that hairstyle doesn't go well with you. Oh, that makeup doesn't really look nice. That lipstick, I had a friend who would say, you know what, that that outfit is really nice, but I'm sure it would look a whole lot better on me, with my looks and all, So they can't compliment anyone. So but actually they're projecting maybe what they feel inside, but they're in denial. So it's easier to project onto others. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we've got someone as well who's asked, going on from whether they can get treatment. I think these two questions lie together. They said, are they aware of what they do to others and the impact it has on others? And then on the back of that as well is, so you become, it's a comment from Char, that you become the victim of their childhood trauma. Does it ever end?
Yeah, unfortunately, most of them, they are not aware that, this is what they do. So the only thing, like when I work maybe with victims of narcissists, is to just help the victim to set boundaries. And, I always say every relationship is like a dance. So when the dance changes, even if it's one person who changes the dance, sometimes the dance is forced to, the other person is forced to dance to change. So if you're playing Rumba and suddenly you're playing, ballroom music, then, the dance has to change. So it's about setting boundaries. And when they realize that they can't get away with whatever they were getting away before, then it's either if they value the relationship, they'll, probably, leave. Or when the partner decides to leave, then yeah, that's usually how it ends, because most of them, they're in denial. It's always your fault. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Before I go on to some of the other questions, because we've got quite a lot in the chat, which is really good. We've got Miss Masara Olinda who wants to comment. So I've just allowed you to talk. You've got your hand up. Hello? You've got to unmute yourself so that we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Yes. Sorry, just a quick question. So I just wanted to ask, so this behavior, does it constitute a crime under domestic violence?
Well, not all of them, are physically abusive. Usually it's mental abuse, emotional abuse. And if you are not aware, especially in our African culture, I think we don't think it's abuse until somebody gets physical with you. So that's why a lot of victims, they now have low self-esteem and depression, and they don't know why, because their partner doesn't beat them, and he's not physically abusive. So it's usually a mental mind game. They're usually emotionally abusive. So according to the law, to answer your question, probably not, because it's mental abuse, but it's equally damaging.
That's true, yeah, because it's so difficult to prove as a criminal offense. So it will still be domestic abuse, but to prove it from a criminal standard may then be what's difficult to do or impossible. And control and coercion has been made into a crime, but still it's very difficult to prove. When you go to the police, it's very challenging to do that. So yeah, so thank you for that question, Olinda.
Thank you.
We've got another question here from somebody asked, Pamela asked, I came in late, sorry if this was talked about, love bombing. Could you explain a bit about this?
Okay, so usually you would find that most people don't realize that they're marrying a narcissist, because no one would voluntarily get married to someone like that. But usually those people at the beginning of the relationship, they overwhelm you. We call it love bombing. They're very romantic. It's like a whirlwind relationship that, they sweep you off your feet, and then suddenly, maybe a few months or years into the relationship, you really begin to see their true colors. Because, at first you're not aware, because they're acting very charming, and most of them, they're very, very charming and very eloquent. So you might not even be aware. They're actually very nice. They can be extra nice in the beginning. Yeah, and that's what we call love bombing. So you're overwhelmed. They'll send you roses like Valentine. They'll fill the whole room with, they're on the extreme with roses, and they're like, oh my God, this is too good to be true. And usually it is. too good to be true.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, Kath has asked about, Kath, there's one question that I'll answer. Probably you've asked about, can you confirm that the partner of a narcissist should be able to stay in the family home if they have children under 18? They should generally be able to stay if they get an occupation order, and if they're able to transfer, if it's a tenancy into their name, if it's a house that they've bought together, they would still need to get a court order to that effect. But it's not automatic that they can stay, because the house, they may not be able to afford to keep up the payments, they may not be able to keep up the mortgage, even with maintenance. So there's so many different factors that come into it, and different scenarios. So the fact that a person is a narcissist or abusive, it's not necessarily that the children and the partner, either male or female, can stay in the family home. And sometimes they feel that it's safer for them to leave, because if they're in the family home, then again, the setting of boundaries and protection and safety, sometimes it's difficult and they're forced to leave. So I couldn't answer that in a nutshell, but that's probably the shortest answer. And then I'll also go on to the other question that you've asked, Kath. You've asked about you said mercy, radical acceptance, and grey rocking, co-parenting. So probably that's for you, Pamela, or if you want to explain more the question, Kath, or if you understand what it is. I don't. So Pamela, you might understand.
Is she asking me to explain about grey rocking? I'm not sure. So grey rocking, we say, these are some of the tools we say when you're dealing with a narcissistic. Grey rocking is, you become non-interesting, you just give them one-word answers, so you don't engage them. So we also use an acronym called DEEP. When we're dealing with a narcissist, we say, don't defend, don't bother trying to defend yourself, because they don't care. Don't engage, don't try and engage them. Don't explain, because, you think, oh, maybe if I explain, you'll understand, but they don't care. Remember, we said they have low empathy. And don't personalize, the P, like, it's not about you. It's not, don't take it personal. So I think maybe that's where she's coming from, about the grey rocking.
That's great. Yeah, I hope that's clarified that. And we've got a question as well about co-parenting, because you've mentioned there about parenting, and that's the next webinar that we're having, where it's going to be about co-parenting. So that will answer some of the questions as well, because I think that needs a whole session on its own about co-parenting with a narcissist. So that's really, thank you for those questions, because it's good. It's going to be a whole session on that. And then I've got some questions here in the from Anonymous. It's the gaslighting and exaggerating and lying. How do I control their rage? Because they use children, and how do I protect myself?
Yeah, so, it's very difficult dealing with a narcissist. So we say, don't be drawn into that drama triangle. So maybe even walking away, and saying, if you raise your voice, or if you're not going to speak to me, calmly, I'm going to walk away, and you actually walk away. So eventually, they'll realize that you are not going to be drawn, into their drama, because they will trace the waters. I mean, if you've been enabling them all of these years, suddenly they want to try and see if you are really serious. So you might even have to walk away, to say, you know what, if you're going to, if you're not going to talk to me with respect, I'm going to walk away, and you actually walk away. So you just need to set your boundaries.
Setting your boundaries. And if you've left, so if you're still in a relationship, and I think that probably is another topic on its own, because it's on if you're staying, versus if you've left or if you are leaving. So I think that because somebody has asked a question in the chat to say, the grey rocking, is it a tool to save a marriage with narcissistic elements? And I think what's also key, perhaps, if I'll hand over that question to you for us to discuss is, there's 3 questions which I'm going to put together. There's the one which asks about saving a marriage with narcissistic elements, because you can have a person who's narcissistic and it's psychological, it's emotional abuse. And like you've said, that sometimes it's difficult for them to actually identify what's going on, and they're trying to get counseling and to work on saving the marriage. And then there's a question in the chat, which is, why do people still stay or want the narcissist? Is something wrong with me then for wanting to be loved by him? Yeah, so that's really interesting. So I think they all sort of like tie in together.
Yeah, so maybe I'll try and tackle the one of why do people stay? Because you find that partners of narcissists, they usually become codependent. We call them enablers. Without being aware, they enable the narcissist because they don't set boundaries. And because, the narcissist, they're always gaslighting you or, blaming you for everything that goes wrong in the relationship. Unfortunately, some partners actually tend to take the blame. So, they're good at telling you, I only do this because you don't listen. If only you do this, and maybe if only you do this, then I wouldn't have to shout at you. I do this because I love you. And so usually they pick out their victims, carefully. These narcissists, it's usually people who are very compliant, the compliant people pleasers. So obviously maybe people also with low self-esteem, people are in the low end of the spectrum. So usually, yeah, that's what makes maybe people stay, because they're not even aware that they're actually being abused. But normally when these people codependents come for therapy and they actually realize what's going on, that, now they have names for it. Look, actually he's gaslighting me. Actually he rewrites history, because normally I give, like a checklist. A lot of narcissists, when it's in a male-female relationships, sometimes we use the term misogynist. So most misogynists, they're also very narcissistic. So you find you give someone a checklist. Does he do this? Does he, want to be nice right after a big blow up? Does he, pretend that nothing has happened? Does he do this, da, da, da? And then when they tick, and maybe they've ticked 20 out of 25, you're like, oh, you're actually...
Oh, what's happening?
Actually enabled them to continue abusing them. But most of them, it's either if the narcissist realizes that they value the relationship, when the other partner starts setting boundaries, sometimes they will change, because, their greatest fear is rejection, funny enough. They don't want to be rejected. So if they value the relationship, sometimes that's when they'll come for therapy, together with the spouse. But normally at the back of mind, we know most of them, they're non-customers. They've come because they have no choice. So they can come to tick the boxes, and then, when the dust is settled, go back again, unless the partner learns to, set the boundaries. So yeah, there are some people who stay, and some for financial reasons. Maybe, you're not financially stable, or, for the sake of children, you stay. But, the abuse is actually quite traumatic in the end. That's why some people leave.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you for answering that. It's a very difficult, it's not easy. It's not easy to stay. It's not easy to go. And there's somebody in the chat, anonymous question, who's just said, how do I build up my self-esteem again? I feel so broken. And I just want to encourage that person, because I can't see who they are, that they should contact myself or contact Pamela after the session. And one of the things is yourself being able to get your own counseling and being equipped and understanding what's happening, and then learning tools and being empowered to be able to reach a position where you can make a decision. Because it's not for us to say you must leave. It's not for anyone to tell you what to do, but it's for you to be empowered and to be built up yourself. And if you're able to have one-to-one sessions, I'm always an advocate for therapy. I always say to everyone, go for therapy, but I never used to go. And I've just had a session myself, and I found it so good. And everyone should have therapy. I think we need to normalize it and not think that it's for some people and for other people, because I was just buzzing. I think just literally after one session, and I was so excited, and I felt that I actually felt empowered myself and reflective, and so looking inward as well. So I would encourage everyone that, you can't fix someone else, but you can certainly work on yourself, which can help you to know how to set boundaries, how to make a plan, how to know what you want, so that you're not in that drama triangle and you're not just going round in circles. So I would really encourage anyone who's listening who feels like this person who's put in the anonymous, that I just feel so broken. And it's that time for you to be rebuilt and to be empowered and to be able to be built up again. And sometimes you can't do that on your own.
Yeah, and also just to add to that, Rumbi, some people think they should also only come for counseling when they're in a crisis. You don't have to wait until you come, when there's a crisis. So we also say you should come. I'm a community psychologist, and community psychology, we say we're focusing on prevention. Don't wait until you're clinically depressed to come for counseling. Why not come and get tools, self-awareness? You realize, oh, okay, I think maybe I've got codependency issues, or okay, maybe this is how I tend to react, and this is how I, resolve conflict. Maybe I always yield all the time, peace at any price. I need to learn to be assertive. So it's about self-awareness. We'll give you taste, your personality, we'll give you taste to, see maybe even your love language, So it's always good to come, even when you don't have a problem, just to get tools, self-awareness.
Excellent. That's great. There's a question here about religion. So there's two questions. I'll read them both. What if it's a pastor who is narcissistic, very controlling, preaches about people who skip church at times and really runs them down, will delay you going home by saying he wants to see you after church, and those after church meetings go on and on forever, makes one dread church. He will rip to shreds all who have left, saying we curse them all who leave the church, as if there's no Jesus in this church. And then somebody else said, religion too. You're encouraged to pray and fight for your marriage. And a lot of church leaders and pastors are not narcissistic trained.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's unfortunate. But it's again, maybe just to answer that, to equip yourself. Once you learn to, set boundaries with a narcissist, you won't become an easy prey. You will not be a good source of their narcissistic supply. So they'll probably, leave you and move on to someone who's more compliant and, because once you start setting boundaries with narcissists, they don't like it. They'll probably, try to draw you back. But if they realize that you are now, assertive, they'll probably, leave you alone. And I always say, a church is the easiest thing to do if you don't like, what's going on, you just leave.
Yeah, at least with church, it's easy, isn't it? It's much easier to leave. It's much easier to leave. That's good. And and another answer perhaps from Kath for the anonymous person who put on about their self-esteem: have good friends and Christian support. So important and so vital. I can't overstress that. And if you're a Christian, rediscover who you are in Christ and who he is in you. Baby steps, self-care, and be kind to yourself are some of the things that have helped her. So those are all true steps on rediscovering yourself, who you are in Christ, who he is in you, self-care, and be kind to yourself. That's amazing. Thank you so much. We've got a comment here as well. That mine is more of a comment. I think you had put your hand up, Audrey. I don't know if you wanted to speak. I know you had put your hand up. If you'd like to unmute yourself, or else I can read your comment. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to speak, yes. So my name is Audrey. I'm also going through the same. I just thought maybe I would help the person who's struggling, who's talking about being crushed and broken and all. I'm going through the same situation. I did not know that I was living with a narcissist until towards the end of my marriage, when I couldn't understand the behavior. It is so frustrating. It is so exhausting, because you try to figure out, why do they treat me this way? Why are they behaving this way? I even went on to question him, like, why are you behaving? Why do you have a personality disorder? But I couldn't make it up what it was, because of these projections, that behaviors that were happening, exactly what everything that has been explained before by the speakers. So what is building me up? It's not easy. I'm not there. I'm struggling. I cry. What is building me up mostly is I read lots of books. I bought myself lots of books by T.D. Jakes. I've Googled to search how can I help myself. I'm trying to empower myself. I'm trying to so there's this book that I'm reading called I don't know if anyone wants to look into it. It's called Recovery from Narcissistic Abuse. You can thrive after narcissistic abuse, by Melanie Tonia Evans. I can put it in the chat as well. But that book is helping me a lot, because this author writes everything. She's got some, it's like you got exercises that you need to do on yourself, where you write yourself what is bothering you. You start even confessing to yourself. So I do talk to myself. I tell myself, you are worth it, you are beautiful, you are lovely. Every morning I wake up and I say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And whenever those thoughts start coming, I start saying, you know what, I will not conform to the things of this world, but I'll be transformed by the renewal of my mind. And I will, so it's like I speak scriptures. I'm a strong Christian. I speak scriptures. I listen to YouTube videos. I try to distract my mind. It is not easy. And I still, some part of me feels like, oh, I still love this person, but I know he's toxic. I know he hurt me so much. But you try to distract. It is normal. All those feelings of loneliness, shame, you want him. Sometimes you feel like you're going to text him and say why, or you want him back, or things like that. But all that is normal. Do not feel bad. Don't condemn yourself. Don't hate yourself. Love yourself. Have self-love. I'm learning self-love. I'm learning to look after myself. I have been told so many years that, oh, you know what, you're damaged goods. You got 3 children. We're going to love you. I told myself, okay, I'm lovable. I'm beautiful. I can make it. So just affirm those things to yourself. Be the best you. Love yourself. Put yourself first. And then you know what? God will do the rest. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say, to encourage my sister. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Audrey. That's really encouraging. That's great. You've said a lot. You've said so many points on empowering yourself. You're reading books, you Googled, and you found, because books to read, you listen to YouTube, you pray, you attend therapy session, you use talk therapy with your friends and family. And some days you're strong, and some days you said you are vulnerable. And that's great. You know what you're saying, that you are, you're taking it one day at a time. You're learning to love yourself. Thank you so much. That's really, really encouraging. That's great. Thank you. Wonderful. And Kath had also put something in the chat, which was about Dr. Ramani de Vusala. She's very knowledgeable, and narcissism is a specialist, a clinical psychologist, and she's got a lot of information on YouTube. So that's really good as well. Lots of access to information there, which is really, really good. So thank you for that. That's wonderful. That's great. And Memory is also put in some more working on your healing, read a lot, watch TikTok videos, follow pages set up by victims, therapy, and loads of YouTube videos. That's great. Thank you so much. There's so much information out there that's available, and so many resources and so much help to journey along, which is amazing. And I think just summarizing, perhaps as we reach the end of this webinar, there's been a lot of questions, a lot of interaction. It's been really great. And I'm going to perhaps just summarize on the legal process, the legal process, and some of the things just to look out for from a legal perspective, and then we will probably then finish. So as I said, I'm from Tulia, and we support people from a legal perspective and also in their own recovery. We partner with Living Your Best Life, where Pamela is from, and we run a recovery from divorce course. And we've also been able to send people for counseling and sponsoring them when we've received some grants and funding around that. We've been able to help people to get one-to-one support. We also have some volunteers who are themselves have walked through that journey, and they help others to walk through that journey as well, to have a community, to have sisters, to have brothers, to have people who are journeying together, because narcissists are not just men, it's women as well. And so there are some men who are coming out from those relationships, and then there's women who are coming out from those relationships as well. So we just support people in that respect. I won't be long in terms of the divorce process. I think just one thing that we've noticed, that I've noticed as well in practice, is the controlling behavior, which is one of the traits that Pamela mentioned. And a common method is to undermine confidence and to push away from that support network, and to isolate them so that all their reliance is on the narcissist themselves. And so we find that people, even to make that initial telephone call, even just to ask that, what help is available for me? What can I do? Is there a way out of this? Or is this my life? Is my life doomed to continue dealing with this? And making that first step to phone is a huge step into the unknown. And I encourage anyone not to hesitate to make that call, to have that initial conversation, to equip with knowledge and to understand what help is available, what help are you seeking, and then we can advise you on what the steps are, what to expect, what happens, what are the costs, what's the procedure. Is it for you? Is it something that you're going to do? And to just go through that with you. And sometimes even people want to have marriage therapy before they make a decision, because they don't know what they're dealing with. And some people go for therapy as a tick box, but other people get some help. And depending on how high, because Pamela spoke about the spectrum, there's some people who are really low down, and they can be helped. And I think as well that when people get help, I know that probably science will say they can't be helped and they never recover. But our organization is a Christian organization, and we don't believe that anyone is beyond the reach of God. And where someone wants to get help, and themselves, they see that there's something wrong, they can be helped. But we also understand that not everyone can be saved or helped. And it's good for you to be able to talk to someone through all that without feeling any guilt, without feeling guilty for thinking, I want to stay, I love this person, but they're so messed up. But it's good to be able to just talk through the process, know what you're getting into, understanding that controlling behavior, and then making a really informed decision. And breaking away from a narcissist. If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, they've always expected compliance from you. And Pamela spoke about that they look for compliant people, compliant victims. And the decision to end the relationship is something that's very courageous and bold, to try and break the hold. And so that sometimes they don't see that their behavior is what's causing the breakup, and you can end up going round and round and round in a blame cycle. And so our job is to give you the full understanding, to reassure you that, you know what you're doing, it's not your fault. This is clear, the clear steps of what to do, and to give you the tools and the confidence to stand up to those emotional attacks, because you will face emotional attacks. And we found as well in our job that it's not just the actual narcissist who is the only one who's blaming you, but sometimes they also come from a family like that. And then you end up getting blame from everyone, and you feel that you're the bad person. But what we then do is help you to understand the process, support you, hold your hand, and encourage you as you go, because we're not there to judge, we're there to empower and to give tools. And you find again that the lack of empathy from the person that you're separating from, the inability to see things from any other viewpoint, makes it very difficult to have any discussions about the reasons to end the divorce. And it feels like it's impossible to talk to them. And even to go for mediation, everything just feels impossible. And it impacts on your ability to be able to take those steps. And what happens with divorce, it means that you're taking the reins yourself, and you're making decisions that will impact your future and your children's future and your security. And it's very frightening, where you've been controlled for so long and put down for many, many years. And that's why it's important to have a team of people who understand where you're coming from, what you've experienced, and why you may be acting in the way that you're acting. So for me, when I just never understood about narcissism, because legally we don't have to know this is not my field. But I realized with Tulia, when we help people more holistically and guide people through the process, that it's important for the legal side, without the knowledge of what the person is going through, what they've gone through, and the barriers and the challenges that they're having in doing this. It makes our service better because we're able to understand. So it's important for us to be able to have that understanding. Also, when you're dealing with somebody who manipulates you, because that's one of the other traits, again, that is something where they use your emotions to manipulate you, as we've discussed before. And it's very difficult when there's children involved. And co-parenting, where there's narcissism, is just a whole different ball game, where someone is constantly trying to look for blame, trying to find fault, creating issues where there are no issues, and not understanding or having empathy for how it affects the children. So again, in there, it's important to be empowered, to have someone who can guide you through the process, and not just guide, but also encourage and affirm and understand where you're coming from and the type of person that you're having to deal with. And sometimes it's easy for legal reps to say, why can't you just negotiate? Why can't you be reasonable? But when you understand that you're coming from a manipulator who constantly tries to find fault, then it makes it very difficult to settle those matters. And again, that's where it's important to have a team that can help and put across your case and give you the confidence to put it forward before a judge, the confidence to know that what you're saying is right, that this person is just trying to nitpick and find fault and blame and create issues. And you're then able to articulate your case better because you understand that this manipulation is coming from someone who's a narcissist. Divorce is not easy. It's not easy. And for me as a practitioner who is a Christian, it's one of the most challenging areas that I've had to deal with, because there's always that conflict that comes. Someone has said it about religion, and there's a conflict, but I've realized that, you know, when people are bound in situations that are toxic and dangerous for them, we do have to help people to get out of those situations, and it's not easy, and very few people just get through it easily. Not many people do. And Pamela spoke about remembering what your goal is, remembering why are you doing it, remembering why, remembering your goal, and then knowing your game plan. It's so important. And so every single step, it's important to get help, and to understand the process, and know what you're entitled to, especially those people in England. There's a lot of support for parents. There's a lot of support from the government. There's also legal aid for certain type of matters, not only where there's domestic violence. Now there is legal aid for children's matters, and not for every single case, but there is where there's domestic violence. So it's important to be able to know what's available to you, so that you're not caught up in a situation where you're stuck. And sometimes they'll try and delay the ending of a relationship because of control. And they'll stall, they'll delay, costs will rise. And it's so important to have a plan and not to be deflected from the process by the actions of the other party. It's important to know your choices that you've made and your goals that you've made, and then to stick to it. And having a community, having a team that helps you makes the process, a process which is really difficult, it does make it much easier. And therefore, it's important to have a plan and a team that is able to support you. I'm just going to quickly just check. Oh, that's good. I've just got a few comments here, which are really really good. RC Blake's is excellent, really knowing how a healthy man should be, character, etc. I think that's really good. Please take down any notes from the chat that you read, so that you can have some information that you can read. Excellent. Thank you for all the comments. And before we ask, I think we've just got a couple of minutes. Any questions that people have got about the divorce process, and then we can answer those, and then we can conclude. I think we'll just have like about 5 minutes, because we've gone over our time. We're supposed to be finished. If anyone's got any questions around the divorce process itself, then we can quickly answer that. Otherwise, I think we can then close off for today. Okay, that's great. There's a question in the chat which says, I'm not yet financially independent enough to leave immediately, and I feel silly going back to ask my dad for money. My husband doesn't want me anymore, and it's all my fault. And unfortunately, I lost all my friends when I married him. I only have my family, but constantly stressing my parents with this. This is hard on them. So I started keeping quiet and coping in the worst ways. I'm in my mid-20s. I feel so damaged and embarrassed that I'm possibly looking at a divorce soon. Thanks for the support. And what I would say perhaps to that young person, to the anonymous person who's just written that, is perhaps to join the recovery from divorce course, even before you go through the process. It will just help you, even with self-awareness for yourself, and just understanding more about it and hearing from other people, and empowering yourself. So if you look on, if you could perhaps send a message, I'll just put a WhatsApp number for Tulia on here. We've got a divorce course that's just started, a recovery course. It might be useful for you to join that for now. And then that can just help you. If you just send a WhatsApp message to that, then I can add you on the group so that you can get more information about that. But that might be really useful for you. Great, thank you. And Tafi, you've talked about co-parenting with a narcissist, and I would like for you next time, please join so that you can share your experience in detail, because I think that will be really good for many people, because I think that's a real challenge. And I think we've got Dr. Justice, who's Pamela's husband, who's going to be doing that webinar next. So that will be really interesting. I will confirm the dates and send them to you by email for those who've registered on Eventbrite. I think it's the 15th of March. It's the second week of every month that we have these webinars. So Tafi, I will definitely reach out to you so that you can share how you've been able to overcome this. So thank you for that information, that you're managing to do it and it's smooth sailing. So that's really encouraging. Thank you for that. That's amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for your comments and for attending. And we, if you look out, if you follow us, Tulia, on, I am going to just find it on, if you follow Tulia on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter as TuliaGroup, you'll find the next dates for the next up and coming courses. If you need any help, please contact us for a fixed fee advice session. And for any form filling and advice, email tulia.org.uk. We also are currently running a recovery program on Thursday evenings. So if you want more information about that, contact us again. We offer a holistic support. So we offer the legal advice, but also faith, spiritual support, listening service. We have supported accommodation for victims of domestic violence with immigration issues, corporate consultancy training and bespoke services, well-being training, and peer support. So we support people in a holistic way, in a well-rounded manner. And I hope you managed to get Pamela's details right at the beginning, but I will share them again with everyone who attended via email on our Eventbrite. Those who joined via Eventbrite, I'll send out those details for you as well, so that if you need any one-to-one support, you're able to reach out. There's plenty of support available. And, you know, we're here to journey with you in whatever stage and at whatever stage you're at. So thank you everyone for joining. And thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you for that really detailed presentation and for taking time to answer all the questions that we had today. And thank you to everyone who's joined. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. And thank you, Rumbi, for having me.
Thank you so much. Great.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Pamela, are you able to send any of the attendees? Someone was asking, they didn't get a chance to screenshot. Are you able to send the presentation to them?
To the participants?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think so. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, all right, that's great. Yeah, thanks, Ollie. We'll be able to send that to you if you registered via Eventbrite. Thank you. Thank you.